Cuts. Today's portion, we're actually going to learn how to do some canning today. My name is Katrina Emerson, and I am going to introduce these two young, lovely ladies that are sitting next to me, and we're going to learn a little bit more about canning.
My name is Claudette Davis.
Nancy Davis.
Okay. And these two young ladies here are going to introduce us and show us how to can our own vegetables. So we're going to ask them a few questions just to get a little bit more information about the process. So how long have you ladies both been canning your own vegetables?
I've been canning about 20 years.
About 30.
How did you guys get into canning the vegetables?
Well, through my husband. And we lived in an apartment complex, and they had an area where the tenants were able to plant a garden.
Oh, nice.
So,
And I learned it from my grandmother, but because she used to do it every year. But I didn't do it when I came here because I told my husband I'll buy my vegetables. But when he started doing what
yeah.
his brother does, which is her husband,
Okay.
he started bringing stuff home, and he would help me do it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And I do tomatoes and string beans, okra and tomato together, okra by itself in a jar. And I put okra in I got a food saver,
Mm-hmm.
and I get all the air out the bag and put the okra in the freezer. And it come out good when I get what you use it.
Nice. What do you say?
No, we do a little bit of everything. Beans, green beans, field peas, squash, corn, okra, and tomatoes. And the only thing that we don't do are potatoes and onions. And Elijah grows those. And last year was the first year that we had no fresh vegetables because the deer ate it down. I mean, nothing. And once you become accustomed to eating fresh vegetables, going into the grocery store is this. You know, the onions are stronger that come out of, he grows watermelon, cantaloupe, sweet potatoes,
Oh, nice.
white potatoes, scallions. He grows a little bit of, we had carrots, broccoli, hot peppers. He grows a lot.
It's a busy process. It really is because when Ben brings stuff home, we bring in big bags, and then I got to go through all the bags and make sure that everything is good and not bad. Like the tomatoes, I had to throw away a lot of them, but I got about 25 jars that I can.
Oh, wow.
Because we had a garden, little tomato garden in the backyard. And I went out there and picked the tomatoes, put them in the window so they could finish getting what they needed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I canned them.
So I do have a question about that. How do you know what's good and what's bad?
With the tomato, you'll definitely know what's good and bad.
With any vegetable, if you see a brown spot that begins to decay, cut it off.
And use the good part.
Okay.
Yeah, and you keep the good part. It's with any, vegetable that even when you go into the grocery store, all of the vegetables that you may purchase aren't always good. So with greens, as you're washing them, you throw away the bad. You cut off the dark spots, so.
Now, do you ladies can fruit as well?
I did, and that's hard work.
I don't do
and will not do that again.
I don't do that because it's too much work.
It's a more involved process.
Yeah, because my girlfriend and I, we did one year, we went to the apple orchard, picked apples, and when you had to come home, wash them, boil them, then you had to strain them. No, that's a lot of work. the kids loved it. We did strawberries the same way, but fruits are, to me, are much harder to do than vegetables.
So there are more steps involved with fruits?
Yeah, because see, like I said, with applesauce, you would have to take the apples and put it in a strainer
Okay.
and mash it. I ain't doing that.
Well, you know how to do the tomatoes, right? You boil them in hot water.
Uh-huh. So you can get the skin
The
off?
skin will come right on off.
Okay.
And then I take them in my hand and chop them up a little bit and put them in the jar.
Okay. Do you add any sugar to them or
No,
anything like
no.
that? So, okay.
Now see, now she doesn't add salt. I do. But it's a personal preference. You know, you can buy the canning salt. You can use regular sea salt or table salt. Not a lot, but, and I guess it depends on how quickly you're going to consume the vegetables that you can.
So when the items are, let's just say we finish canning, how long are they able to be stored before use?
Shoot, girl, forever. Right, Nancy?
Yeah, Elijah gave Cherie some peas that he canned in 2004.
Wow.
And when you open it, it's still good.
Yeah, and see, and that's with anything. When you open it, if it has an odor, throw it away.
Right. And you put the date on it. When we get them out this pressure cooker
Mm-hmm.
and clean the water off the top, put the date on it. And then you'll know when you go to get something. Well, I did this day, so I'm going to use that first.
Okay. So you always want to use the oldest date first?
Yes.
Correct.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, because if you have a pantry or somewhere that you store the canned goods, bring the old, you know, up front.
Okay.
Um,
Well, I got mine in my basement. I got about four boxes full.
Wow.
So I had to start sitting them on the floor in front of the box. And I got about 30 sitting on the floor in front of the box.
Wow. So they're pretty much, if you done the amount that you have, it'll pretty much last you all winter.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Next winter
Oh,
too.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
It don't go bad. Like she said, if you open one and it's bad, it just went bad because of something we did when we put them in the jar. But normally they don't go bad. I haven't thrown away a jar yet.
Okay. And so what we see behind us, I know that we're in the kitchen. I just want to make sure everybody knows we're actually cooking some string beans right now. So the noise that you hear in the background, these would be ready to go.
Pressure cooker.
In the pressure cooker, I'm sorry. So how long does that process take in the
Well,
pressure cooker?
normally at my house it takes about 8 or 9 minutes, but with this stove taking so long to heat up, it's going to take longer for it to get where it needs to be.
Okay. And for those, go ahead.
And what I was going to say, you don't necessarily need a pressure cooker to can your vegetables. If the pot is deep enough to put a quart or a pint-sized jar, and you put the top on it and it covers, fill it up. Now, that process takes about a half an hour, 45 minutes.
Right.
Because you definitely want the water to boil and boil for a time period.
So we can get the stuff done in,
Yeah.
in the jar.
Yeah.
So it cooks inside the jar.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Right. I should have brought my pot because, and I showed Cherie last night. She said, "Oh wow, you know," because everyone is not going to want to use a pressure cooker.
Because I don't.
You use a regular pot,
No,
or
I put them in the jar, in the pot, and when my husband come home, I go out and cook.
okay, okay. So I know you say you don't do potatoes. Is there a reason why?
But you can do it.
I just don't.
Okay.
I mean, I like baked potatoes. I like mashed potatoes. I don't know. I've never thought about candy.
But I might try it now since you mentioned it.
Yeah, that's something to think about.
Yeah.
You know, and I guess you could do the very same thing because he grows sweet potatoes too. The more I think about what he grows,
Mm-hmm.
it just keeps rolling on out. But he will bring the white potatoes and the sweet potatoes, and they come out in the fall of the year.
Oh, okay.
So, he said no white potatoes this year, but he did plant sweet potatoes. And normally around Thanksgiving and Christmas, there's enough produce in the garden that we can give to different people.
Oh, nice.
You know, greens, sweet potatoes, you know, so those are two commodities that they do not have to go to the grocery store and buy.
Nice. So I do have probably one more question. What are the do's and don'ts from your experience that you would want to pass on to your audience today?
What, when it comes to canning?
Mm-hmm.
Do you see the do's and don'ts? I see the do's, what we did.
Okay.
We washed them real good,
Okay.
and then we clean the jars real good, because you gotta have clean jars. So I use the jars that, like when I open something, I wash that jar and put it away, and then when he plant next year, I pull that jar. I don't have to keep buying jars.
Okay.
You just have to buy the top, because you can use the ring, but you can't use the flat part that go on the jar. You have to buy those new.
Okay. That's a good thing to know.
Because you'll put the same.
I know I probably would be like, oh, well, what happened? What went wrong? So.
No, that little flat thing seals the jar.
You can't
So,
use that again.
and then sometimes you have to pry it open to
Mhm.
get the top or the flat part, and it bends. So
And you can't use that again.
and you can't
Okay.
use that again. So, and if you're really interested in canning, I would not wait until the spring of the year to look for mason jars, because by April or May,
They're gone.
they'd be gone.
So when would be a good time
I
to?
would, the winter months,
Okay.
you know, the winter months, and if you see them, grab a case or two, and just, we finished?
No, that's fine. That's
Yeah.
it. Is there a certain brand, or is it just it
Well,
doesn't
there's only
matter?
one brand, I think.
Yeah, more mason.
Mason jars.
Yeah, and it's wide, the wide mouth jar.
Uh-huh.
Well, I'm not saying the little, like, you know, the little one.
Little ones. Yeah. Okay.
So I had to go buy some rings, because when I tried to open my jars, I had to get a knife and go around to open it. So I couldn't use that ring again,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to go buy a whole box of new stuff.
Yeah, yeah. If you see them in the wintertime, I would get the lids, because they come in a case like that, and it will have, some will just have the lids, and then some will have the rings and the lids. So, it's a learning experience, and each year, you become a little better at what you're doing, if, that's what you want to do.
Oh, awesome. Well, I thank you so much, ladies, for hanging out with us today and teaching me something new, and also teaching our audience something new, something that we can use, something that's going to help us, sustain us, and probably help us to eat and live better. So I appreciate you ladies coming out today. It sounds like this pressure cooker is on its way to
It
get
sounds
ready to
like
pop. So let's see what happens, and we'll show you guys the results. Thank you for continuing to tune in with us. Well, let's review our process today. First, we'll start off with some history on canning. Canning is a method of preserving food from spoilage by storing it in containers that are hermetically sealed and then sterilized by heat. The process was invented after prolonged research by Nicolas Appert of France in 1809 in response to a call by his government for a means of preserving food for Army and Navy use. Appert's method consisted of tightly sealing food inside a bottle or jar, heating it to a certain temperature, and maintaining the heat for a certain period, after which the container was kept sealed until use. So let's get started. What are your materials? What do you need? First, you will need canning jars, commonly known as mason jars, that are created specifically for canning. They come in several standard sizes, including quart, pint, half pint, and 4 ounces. The most commonly sold brands today are Ball and Kerr. The size you choose will depend on what you're canning and how much you'll need to use at one time. In this photo example, the individual used half pints and 4-ounce jars for canning jams and jellies, pint jars for things like salsa and pie filling, and a mixture of pints and quarts for things like canned fruit and tomatoes. You'll also have a choice of 2 sizes of the opening at the top of the jar, regular or wide mouth. Doing some research, I have discovered that there are 2 different types of canning: pressure canning and boiling water bath canning. For today's segment, we will be showing the pressure canning. But what's the difference? The difference is, with a boiling water bath, a large pot, you can also use a stock pot, with a rack on the bottom. Canning jars filled with food and special canning lids secured are completely immersed in boiling water for an amount of time specified in the recipe. After processing, as the jars cool, a vacuum seal is formed. A boiling water bath can only heat food to the temperature of boiling water. A pressure canner, on the other hand, is a heavy-duty piece of equipment with a vent, a pressure gauge, and screw clamps. It is capable of heating food in the jars to hotter than the temperature of boiling water. So let's get into the steps. Step 1, pick the fruits and vegetables that you would like to preserve. For this segment, we chose green beans. Check your fruit or vegetables for the bad parts or any signs of browning. Trim those items off, and then also trim the ends of your fruit and vegetables, also taking care to remove the stem. Step 2, wash your produce. Fill a pot of water and wash your produce until the water in the pot is clear. This can take up to 4 or more washings. Step 3. After washing your produce, place the freshly washed produce into the jars. It is your preference if you would like to add salt, but only add a teaspoon.
Canning that we looked at yesterday that you had done, they're not like all filled all the way up to the top. You don't have to do that. Yeah, like,
No.
I thought it had to be like filled all the way up like to there. Oh, okay. That's good. Put some more. Okay, so there's a format to kind of putting them in. Okay, even putting them in, that looks great.
Step 4. Fill the jar with water and seal, leaving space at the neck of the jar for your sealing.
Okay, so see, look.
You should show that to the camera. They can see it.
Okay.
Place the jar into the pot, adding a quart of water to fill the pot, and then setting a timer for a specified time to boil, and then covering the pot with the lid. Step 6. After the specified time has elapsed, turn off the stove and remove the pot from the stove, careful to avoid the heat from the steam and hot water. Step 7. Drain the pot of water and remove the jars from the water, taking care due to the heat of the jars. Step 8. Remove excess water from the jars and set the jars on a towel-covered surface to cool. And step 9. After the jar has completely cooled, store in your pantry away from direct sunlight. And there you have it. You have canned some vegetables. Thank you for joining us today, and join us next time when we have more gardening and nutrition and budgeting for you. Thank you.